Welcome back to Where You Live with Gene and Tony. We are broadcasting from the Concierge Landscape Studios. We're brought to you by Extreme Exteriors and American Family Insurance, the Kim Bennett Agency. And we've been talking on our show today about dealing with bullies, dealing with, and not necessarily a bully, but just a vile, abusive, ugly demeanor or behavior with people.
Now, both of these stories are about bullies, though, don't you think? Because they're confronting people, they're directing their anger and their vitriol.
And the one was in the Star Tribune earlier this week about the woman in White Bear Lake who would stand and yell across the street to a neighbor, post signs, and other
with derogatory comments.
Yes, and other neighbors in that block said, yes, we get the blunt end of those conversations as well.
They've experienced it too. That's right.
And so
now
go ahead.
I was going to say, and the second story then is about a bully in a homeowners association where the association actually took action.
Yes, they did. The association said we're going to be able to move forward. The issue with an association being able to move forward, of course, is this needs to be something that's clear in the board's mind that this is occurring. Because, like we said, when you have immediately you have a difficulty between two neighbors, it's a subjective issue.
Right.
You don't know who is telling you the truth. And this is really true, is it not? The first person that talks to you and tells you've heard just their side of the story.
That's right.
And you believe them until you hear the other side.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden you have a different perspective, right?
That's right. That's right. So an association has to be very careful before taking any action against someone.
Sometimes people are so vigilant, and like we were talking about this idea of a zero tolerance. People will say, as soon as I hear something, you act on it. Well, no, you're hearing one side.
Right.
You need to be measured. You need to be controlled. You need to take time to find out, is that really the case? There are times when what the person is saying is a total fabrication, just trying to get someone else in trouble.
Sure. And if people are having a dispute, that's one thing. There's steps that can be taken. A lot of associations have a grievance committee, or they allow homeowners to come and address the board with a dispute. There's mediation services offered by cities for two neighbors disputing something. In a case like this, where there's many, many incidences of one neighbor causing problems, being hostile, confrontive, aggressive, violent to many people, that's a different situation.
The whole issue with a dispute is that there is a belief, or hopefully a kernel of truth somewhere, where two people actually want different things. And so you try to mediate because you're talking together will reveal that, and then you can come to an agreement that both parties can live with.
There you go. That's right.
In some cases, we're talking about someone who's just being ugly and vulgar, and they have a chip on their shoulder, and that's not going to go away. And we've talked about a restraining order isn't necessarily going to do that.
That's right. And in this case, that's what the association did. They got an injunction that said this guy had to stop this behavior. Now, do you think the association is responsible to do something like that, Gene?
I think there are times when it probably would be appropriate. I do not think that the association necessarily needs to jump into situations like this. I would be more of the mind upon first blush of hearing of a situation or a controversy, where I would talk to that individual. And as you know, my first recommendation is always to try and ask the question, have you just gotten face-to-face with this person to try and talk? And, of course, if you're dealing with an unreasonable person, they won't. And if they are being abusive, if they're being loud, if they're being vulgar, if they are making threats, then that's really not a situation necessarily for the association. I mean, what can they do? they're limited to fines, and the fines usually deal with how you are deal with the common element of the association.
And usually you find for something that's very objective.
Yes.
It either is or it isn't. Either
Yes.
you picked up after your dog or you didn't. Either you parked in the right place or you didn't.
Exactly.
I don't think you can fine for subjective issues.
Yes, and so in something like that, you need to get a third party involved, someone who's disinterested, but can look with an objective eye, and that's where I think why we have a police force.
So your second thing would be to advise the victim to take action if they think criminal action is warranted or reporting to the police is warranted. They should take action,
and they may or may not be able to notice something the first time or two, but if the person is being persistent, like this person was in White Bear Lake, the police chief said this is one of the most aggressive people that they've seen in years.
Yeah.
Just relentless was the word in going after people, and especially this neighbor. Well, the police are going to find that. They're going to agree, and now you're going to get a restraining order. But what does a restraining order mean? It just means that if the individual respects the police force in the municipality where they live, they will obey it. Mm-hmm. If they don't, they're going to cross that line, that boundary, and then what? Right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Then what'll happen is, I would imagine the police, they're not going to just automatically put you in jail, like I said, and throw away the key, right?
That's right.
They'll probably give a warning, right?
Yep, that's right.
And maybe a couple warnings.
Yep.
And each time you're upset, and you get someone saying, they're not doing anything. Well, yes, they are. Yeah. They're following steps and procedures, and these are steps and procedures that we all wish that people would follow with us on as well, because of
that's right. If I was falsely accused, I certainly would want a chance to dispute it,
because we want to be civil in this.
That's right.
But if the person continues on after several warnings, I would imagine the police have the ability to fine, and then
ticket them and fine. Yep.
And then after that, jail. Now, in the case of this person in White Bear Lake, it finally got to that point, didn't it?
That's right. She did spend time in the workhouse, I think. They said. Yeah.
But it begs the question, does that really take care of the issue?
It didn't.
It's not stopping the issue. So what do you do?
I want to go back to this question of whether the association has responsibility in these situations, because in this article out of Florida, they say, if an association is aware that one resident is threatening to harm others and does nothing to stop that behavior, the association will most likely be sued should those threats become a reality and damage to person or property ensue.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
Well, I think that that's something that certainly can happen. Don't you? I mean, we live in a society, like we said, we expect people to fix things for us.
It may not be literally the association's responsibility. I've never seen governing documents that state it's the association's responsibility to settle violent disputes among neighbors. But that doesn't mean you're not going to get named in a lawsuit.
Yes, and that's the key here. There's a difference from being convicted, where you're to a point where a judge says, no, that was your responsibility.
Sure.
That was your duty. What we're talking about here is just staying out of being sued, having someone say, we're going to draw you in because we think you've done something wrong. There's no way to get out of being sued.
There's no way to prevent it.
No way to prevent.
You can take
sued.
steps to cover yourself, to say to try and avoid it.
To try to diminish it.
Bottom line, if someone names you in a suit, they've named you in a suit.
And people are going to do that nowadays. That's what people are told to do by
more and more common. I guess I would advise an association to take what steps it can to protect itself and to protect its members. If you're named in a suit, you can at least say, these are the steps we took. These are what our documents. This is what our documents say. this is the stance we took, so that you've had some thought into the issue.
Yeah. But ultimately, people need to get to a point where they're going to be an adult, and I think the adult in this situation says, you know what, I've taken steps to try and talk to the person individually. Mm-hmm. I've taken steps to have others around me in the neighborhood also talk to this person. Mm-hmm. We've turned it over to the police and asked for their help, and they've monitored the situation. But after that goes on, if we're not talking about physical violence, but just someone just name calling and just yelling, there's nothing we can do at the end of the day to stop that. We just have to ignore that ugly person and that ugly behavior and go on with life, don't you think?
Yeah. Bottom line.
Yeah. Well, hey, we've got to go on with a few messages, and when we come back, we've got one more segment, so don't go away.